Okay guys, so I'm back, and the new season of Star Wars Rebels, or the second half of the second season, is going to be coming soon. So the trailer obviously hit, and there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. A lot of people were already just tweeting at me before I even saw it if I was going to do a breakdown of it. So I am going to just get into that right now. So getting right into this trailer, the first thing you're going to notice is progressively the show has gotten much darker, obviously. Not just in the way it looks, but the themes it's tackling too. And obviously, looking at it right now, the opening scene, we see some sort of temple which seems to be Sith in origin, and it's clearly not like, a dark night. We can see that it's underground, it's crumbled everywhere. It's almost like it's been hidden for a very, very long time. Now, we'll talk about this concept in just a little bit, like later on when we get to the subject. Obviously, looking at it, we see that Ezra is going here and there. Constantly throughout this trailer, they are going to be talking about how the dark side is actually calling to Ezra now. So if that's going to play anything into the future, we'll see. Next up, we actually open up to a scene where we have two stormtroopers heading towards the Inquisitors. Now, this is, of course, the fifth brother and the seventh sister, as the Grand Inquisitor was, taken care of at the end of the last season. And, we see that Vader is going to talk to him. Now, his design here is very reminiscent of A New Hope, or what leads to that suit. Obviously, if you guys don't know, there are subtle changes throughout the suit, and one of the most notable ones in A New Hope is that you can actually kind of see through his eyes and almost see the face that's there. You can definitely see the eyelids and everything moving. So it's pretty interesting that they are taking that realm, paying attention to all this detail, much like they do with the Stormtrooper, because their suits evolved over time too. Subtle changes like, different colors in just their visor. Next up in the trailer, we actually do get a scene of Ezra fighting the fifth brother, the Inquisitor. They've been kind of building up towards this conflict for a little bit. He almost took both of them on alone towards the end of the last season, which that didn't happen because he was prevented from it. Now, seeing how this trailer is structured, I'm assuming that these two are going to be eventually killed off in some fashion, maybe in this season, probably him and Kanan both doing it, or maybe another force will, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Huge implications here obviously are that, it's once he starts taking lives or going down that dark path, they kind of make a mention that there's really no going back, which also there's callbacks further in this trailer to that. And then the trailer kind of slows down a little bit, and we get introduced to Leia. We know she's been sent here by Bail Organa, so she is going to play the important role of raising the rebellion now, as it's already been starting. A very interesting fact here is if you look at her outfit, if you go compare it to the original Ralph McQuarrie art, this is an exact copy of what they originally wanted for Star Wars A New Hope, from the hair to the, just the slight little notches in the clothing and everything. So very cool there. And, as Disney and Lucasfilm always do, if something is made, it's never thrown to waste. It's recycled and put elsewhere, much like the fifth brother was actually a design that was up for Kylo Ren. And in this part of the trailer, we actually see that she is talking to Ezra. Now, looking behind him, you can clearly see that he's looking at some photographs, who is obviously his dad. Now, family is a big theme in this series, and obviously with Star Wars as a whole, so it kind of makes me wonder, is his parents going to play a bigger role into something that he didn't know that they possibly got killed for, because of whatever they were doing, and it's something that's kind of being hidden from him. And I really wouldn't be surprised if there was more that Kanan knew that he's really not telling him. So I believe that this could be the start of what leads him down towards that, dark path. Now, a few of the next scene are just quick action shots. We have them doing some sort of crazy dive from what I would assume is some sort of rebel ship down onto the planet. Nothing really in context to really do what it's like. Maybe it's just some sort of siege that they're doing in secret. This is how they can break radar. Shot of Sabine just shooting some guns, explosions behind her happening. And now this shot here, which introduces the two Inquisitor we had before, but it actually has a third Inquisitor which we haven't seen before. So what type of role this guy is going to play should be interesting. Obviously we can see he has a dual-bladed lightsaber also, if that has to factor into anything that's coming out that we're going to talk about in a little bit in this trailer. It should be pretty interesting to see if this guy, is a quick, kind of taken care of guy, if he's kind of just fodder, or if they actually carry him over into the next season. Once again, a look at Darth Vader. You can obviously tell, what I was telling you guys before, how you can see through the eyes and everything. Just the subtle changes they put into the suits. going on forward. A quick shot of Rex here. It's really one of the only shots in the trailer. Obviously the clones have been very important in, you know, kind of helping the rebellion. We see is there. If there's going to be anything more personal with him, we don't really know, but I would assume, since obviously they kept him around and he has kind of a vendetta for the Empire, so we'll find out more on that aspect. Now, kind of a very important scene is obviously we've talked about Ezra and his kind of pull towards the dark side that they keep hinting at. In this, we see that he's meditating and we see that he's actually talking to Yoda. So, you know, I'm going to assume when they're down there in the Dark Temple, because this looks like it's definitely going towards that route when they're down there, you know, and he's trying to kind of figure out what his destiny is, that he's being torn between the light and the dark, and obviously Yoda can't tell him, oh, you have to do this, you know, you have to choose your own path. So it's pretty cool just to see Yoda in here as a whole, you know, and he's kind of, he knows that there's other Force sensitive users out there. Now, next up, an unknown planet. At first glance, we might say it's Geonosis, possibly. No idea. Obviously, there's an asteroid field and stuff, so, you know, nothing concurrent. Could there have been maybe a Sith temple on Geonosis that we don't know about, and that's where they go? Possibly. I'm willing to say it's probably not Geonosis, but, you know, we'll find out when the season hits. Now, another theory could be that this is Malachor. It is a planet that has been mentioned already in Star Wars The Force Awakens, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. So, if that's the case, pretty huge implications for overall kind of everything in Star Wars that we know so far since the old canon was, you know, erased. Next up, much like the opening of the trailer, we see that the heroes are walking towards the temple. Now, obviously, you look at this, and there's a lot here. Obviously huge towering statues which look to be, you know, just like Sith, maybe like the Shrouded, kind of what we're used to seeing on Korriban. Now, obviously I don't think this is Korriban, especially if it's the planet from before, just because of the asteroid ring and everything, but, you know, they could have changed in this new canon. Interestingly enough, though, you look at the ground and it seems that these people might have been in a hurry and that they were kind of turned to stone, which kind of has some implications of very, you know, a hardcore use of Force powers that we really haven't seen before. But, you know, it could just be that, you know, I don't know, maybe they're just statues, but it definitely doesn't look like they would build statues of people suffering. And next up, we actually see Ahsoka. She's talking about Anakin and, you know, how he fell and everything, or how she thinks he fell. But it's obvious throughout this trailer we are going to get more hints at her and Vader confronting each other. Now, we see that, you know, throughout the trailer, she wields light, you know, a whole, like, light, very bright white lightsabers, which is pretty interesting because, you know, we've never really seen her have those before she showed up in Rebels. Now, she seems to be hinting at that she kind of suspects that Anakin isn't really dead, and we see that Vader is kind of almost force talking to her while she's meditating. So I think in this she could possibly have that revelation that she realizes who exactly he is. And if that's the case, I have a feeling that she's probably going to die. It just seems like a thing that if she knew, then she could tell everybody, and then that could really ripple through the galaxy. And we don't know that many people don't know that he was once Anakin Skywalker. So if that's the case, if she does, you know, end up learning the secret, I think she's pretty much going to die in this. Next up, a scene of Ezra in that pyramid. We see a giant, like, electrocuted crystal. We can't really make out what it is, but it's absolutely huge, shooting off electricity everywhere. Obviously red and purple, the prominent colors. It's very Sith focused, and once again they keep talking about Ezra, you know, really being himself and how really seductive the dark side of the Force can be, which obviously we've seen in various movies, comics, and things like that. So it definitely looks like they're playing up that aspect of him kind of turning to the dark side. And speaking of turning to the dark side, on the light side of that, we see that Kanan shows up at this giant, almost like weird temple. Almost reminds me of something out of the Old Republic, but, you know, obviously not. And we see that these, I don't want to say they're Jedi, but maybe Force-sensitive people are there, and they have, you know, dual-bladed yellow lightsabers. And from the look of it, they actually have, like, artifacts of lightsabers just everywhere around them. If we look behind Kanan, there's all sorts of, you know, lightsabers everywhere, almost like they're maybe collecting them, or they're teaching their own version of the Force. So it should be interesting to see what these guys do, because obviously if there's more Force-sensitive users out there, they would be hunted by the Empire and killed. So how they haven't yet, and maybe if they're possibly on the dark side, should be interesting. And we actually see here that Kanan is using a lightsaber, or a red lightsaber also at the same time, which to me just says he pulled it off a wall, because we can actually see one is missing behind him, so to kind of even the odds. Alright, next up, probably the second most important thing in this trailer, in this entire thing. Obviously we see Ezra, and he's holding a crossguard saber. Now, the crossguard saber is, of course, the most recent weapon which was used by Kylo Ren. Now, there are a few differences which a lot of people are going to be confused at, which I'm going to try to explain here, so it might take me a little bit. Obviously, Kylo Ren's design is not his. He based his design, and this is confirmed by the Star Wars books, on the Great Scourge of Malachron, which was an ancient battle that we don't know much about, and the crossguard sabers were used during that time. Now, he tries to mimic this as a Knight of Ren, because we're assuming that the Knights of Ren were kind of, the ultimate power force at that time. Now, why exactly he chose to run with this design, and how he learned about it, we don't know. What we know is that Kylo Ren's lightsaber is not a true Malachron design. It never was stable, and the way his is designed is the one blade shoots forward, and the ones on the sides are exhaust ports, because the crystal in his lightsaber is broken, it's shattered, it doesn't work the way it does. When you look at Ezra's, it's clearly a fully functioning saber. It's not, doing that pulsing. It doesn't have a weird beam of light coming out of it, which leads me once again to believe that this isn't in fact Geonosis or Korriban, but it is in fact the planet of Malachron. And so, it's one way or another, when you look at it, it's kind of a big implication, because if he knows about this, then how exactly does Kylo Ren find out about this design? Because if this is that planet, it would mean that at some point, the Knights of Ren would have had to go over here and figure all this stuff out. And now, obviously, that I talked about that, let's talk about the biggest thing in this entire trailer. So, Ezra is being seduced to the dark side of the Force, and there is a very strange voice talking to him, and it's shrouded in a cloak, and it's very dark, and you can't really see much. And a lot of people are automatically jumping to that it's Snoke, which it can't be, because I jumped straight into Photoshop, started brightening the pictures, looking at it, and it's a Zabrak. And the only other Zabrak we know that is alive would be Darth Maul. And if you look at the brightened picture I have right here, it's clear as day this is a Zabrak who's sensitive to the Force and is here at this temple, which would automatically, to me, scream that Darth Maul learned about this place. He goes back to a great, Force sensitive place, which would be, this planet. So if you see the connections here, maybe this is one place that's kind of calling to everybody now. Now, why I say that is, in the current Star Wars canon and the books that came out and everything, Luke Skywalker is literally traveling the galaxy looking for Jedi temples. He's run into a few, but none are the ones that he's really looking for, and then he kind of exiles himself, away to a whole new planet. Now, Ezra finds this place that's calling to him. It looks like Kylo Ren finds the design of this planet calling to him. It looks like Darth Maul ends up in the same place, calling to him probably. So clearly something is going on with this planet that's bigger than what we've all known. Now, since the old canon was ejected, could this actually be the first planet that the Sith arose, or could this actually be the first planet that the Force-sensitive users, the Jedi, actually showed up on? But due to the, obviously the ejecting of the canon and everything, this is going to be the new canon, and this is what establishes the, going on forward where the Force comes from. So, a lot of great stuff, honestly, and a lot of stuff to talk about, which I'm pretty sure me and Matt are going to go more in details about this when, obviously the episodes come back, and we're going to have a lot of discussion. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the breakdown. I tried to really go out and find as much as I could on it, much to my knowledge. But granted, I probably missed a few things, but if I did, we'll come back with that in the next podcast. So thank you for watching the video, and if you guys like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, check out some of these other great videos we have on the channel. Just click the annotation right there, it'll take you to them. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a good one.